Great monetary interest. How to posture to protect your interest. Assist suffering poor afflicted. The 70th ISR Wing is gathering information to provide for snare-free redemption or evidence as co-torturers in Global Magnitsky Gross Human Rights Violations Abuse and Accountability Act. Poor afflicted have gained classification as a tortured class. The Lord will abundantly pardon those who relieve them. The Lord's Kingdom's foundation is the poor afflicted and those that help them. By all means get in on the ground floor of this one. People can say a lot of things about the people, but what people cannot take away from them is their grandfolks built the world. A generational interest in the developed world that is fluid and soon to be connected to them. The NESRA Act. Look for 1 to 2% as fluid. $5 to $10 million. This was signed into law by President William Jefferson Clinton in 1993. And was to be annulled by Alan Greenspan on September 11, 2001 at 10 a.m. This has been keep out of the people's knowledge far too long. Restore our original constitution that you ordered to be done. In early 1993, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on charges by the Farmers Union that banks in the U.S. were fraudulently foreclosing on farm mortgages and that the U.S. government was in collusion with these banks. The testimony and proof brought into court by a retired CIA agent led to further evidence and proof that the Farmers Union claims were legitimate. It also led to evidence the income tax amendment was never properly ratified by the required number of states and therefore, income taxes were unlawful. Almost unanimously the U.S. Supreme Court justices ruled in favor of the Farmers Union. The justices recognized that overwhelming evidence proved the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve banking system were perpetrating fraud in many ways upon Americans. The justices recognized that to remedy this situation, massive reformations would be required. When rulings are made by the U.S. Supreme Court, one or more justices are assigned to monitor a process by which the rulings are carried out. In this case, 5 justices were assigned to a committee to develop steps to implement required government and banking reformations. As the justices went about developing the required reformations, they enlisted the help of experts in economics, monetary systems, banking, constitutional government, and law, and many other related areas. The justices built coalitions of support and assistance with thousands of people worldwide. These thousands of people working to bring us NESRA have been named White Knights. The term White Knights was borrowed from the world of big business when a vulnerable company is rescued from a hostile takeover by a White Knight corporation or wealthy person. Certainly, these people fighting to bring Americans and the world the benefits of NESRA and to rescue our people from government and banking fraud deserve to be called White Knights. Because of the enormously sweeping changes the rulings require, an extremely strict gag order was placed on everyone directly involved and the court case records are sealed until after the reformations are accomplished. To maintain secrecy, the case details for the docket number assigned to the Farmers Union case were changed so doing a search for this case will fail to reflect the correct information until after the reformations are made public. At every step of the process, anyone directly involved has been required to sign an agreement to keep the U.S. Supreme Court's process of implementing the required reformations secret, or face charges of treason which are punishable by death. The only thing that can delay or eliminate this interest is that the World Court ruled that the poor afflicted sufferers were being tormented to death by calculated drugs to disrupt the profundity of their personalities, profoundly. Ultimately finding that since it was to death they upgraded the classification to torture. The public is not aware, exposure such as co-torturers in the Global Magnitsky Gross Human Rights Violations, Abuse, and Accountability Act or even genocide could eliminate the people's interest. The 70th Intelligence, Surveillance, Reconnaissance Wing of the 16th United States Air Force is listening and storing data as evidence or deliverance for snare-free redemption. That is Fort Meade, a cryptologic, worldwide information warfare outfit, working for the Lord. Operators are not aware of what information will be harvested in their data grabs from cell towers, air and cyber settings. America's Cryptologic Wing, our story the 70th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, ISR, Wing with headquarters at Fort George G. Meade, MD, falls under 16th Air Force, also known as the U.S. Air Force's Information Warfare Numbered Air Force. The 70th ISR Wing conducts global ISR in air, space, and cyberspace. The wing comprises 6,200 total force airmen assigned to 5 Groups, 18 squadrons, and 2 detachments spanning 28 locations worldwide. 70th ISR Wing Roosters predominantly work alongside National Security Agency professionals in support of national intelligence needs and build partnerships across the intelligence community in support of Air Force and Joint Force requirements. The 70th ISR Wing mission is to lead cryptologic mission through air, space, and cyberspace to create decision advantage and information warfare options for America. Its priorities are threefold: 1. People first, mission always; 2. Build enduring partnerships; 3. Take pride in America's cryptologic wing. As America's cryptologic wing, airmen at this wing are leaders and warriors in interagency and joint force cryptologic operations, conducting real-time signals intelligence and cybersecurity missions in support of policymakers, combatant commanders, joint force air component commanders, and warfighters across the globe. The wing also provides installation support services to more than 10,000 airmen and dependents assigned to Fort Meade. Organized along 4 lines of effort, those being people, partnerships, mission, and culture, the 70th ISR Wing aspires to develop airmen who are resilient and tactically brilliant joint force cryptologic warriors. As well, it partners across a multi-agency and joint service global network in order to match the pace of modern warfare and great power competition in ever-demanding and increasingly contested environments, in times of peace and war. 70th ISR Wing Roosters push forward cryptologic mission, securing U.S. national security systems and critical infrastructure in order to generate deep insights into foreign adversaries. In doing so, our airmen deliver the distinct advantage of timely, high-quality intelligence that enables strategy, operational art, and tactics, all the while denying our opponents the same. It is thanks to these vigilant, bold, bright, critical thinking airmen with a bias for action that our nation is well guarded and prepared for whatever lies ahead. Since then, it has had several mission and name changes to include the 70th Reconnaissance Group, 70th Tactical Reconnaissance Group, as 70th ISR Wing Roosters say, fights on. Submit Title 22/Chapter 32/Subchapter 2/22 USC 2304, Human Rights and Security Assistance. Text contains those laws in effect on January 19, 2022 from Title 22 Foreign Relations and Intercourse Chapter 32 Foreign Assistance Subchapter 2 Military Assistance and Sales Part I Declaration of Policy 2304. Human Rights and Security Assistance. A. Observance of human rights as principal goal of foreign policy. Implementation requirements. 1. The United States shall, in accordance with its international obligations as set forth in the Charter of the United Nations and in keeping with the constitutional heritage and traditions of the United States, promote and encourage increased respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms throughout the world without distinction as to race, sex. Watchman's note: class should be right here, but they do get around to it, but by then guess who's walked right into the biggest sting operation stakeout of all time. Right into the crosshairs of this flea flicker super duper parable though. Continue laws text here. Language, or religion. Accordingly, a principal goal of the foreign policy of the United States shall be to promote the increased observance of internationally recognized human rights by all countries. The World Court found that this class of people were being tormented to death by calculated drugs to disrupt the profundity of their personalities profoundly. Ultimately, because it was to death, the court raised the classification to torture, providing tremendous legal liability exposure to the increasingly thinly veiled innocent bystander. Your best dollar spent cover your base's fortunes and